Okay, triceps. So triceps being the antagonistic muscle mass to the biceps and the brachialis. Let's see, I'm going to make my triceps out of my biceps. It's just going to be a little bit more efficient than constructing it as like in a piecemeal way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to block in the main direction of the mass and then work the three separate heads, because of course the triceps is called the triceps because it has three separate heads, and understanding those heads is very important to understanding the function of the triceps. So what we have is the lateral head, lateral meaning towards the outside, so that's bulging out through here. Then we have the medial head, medial meaning towards the middle. That's slightly confusing because both of the other heads of the triceps are on the medial line, or towards the middle. But the medial head is this lower down one through here, right? And this is pretty crucial to understanding that medial view of the arm through there. So what both the medial head and the lateral head have in common is they are both grabbing hold of the ulna. Sorry, they're both grabbing hold of the humerus here and going down to the ulna. Right, the long head, which is this head through here, through there, is a little bit tricky because that's grabbing hold of the scapula, right? Which is kind of unusual. So it means that the triceps is able to operate the scapula in a very weak capacity. Let me smooth that out because that was our biceps tendon. And if I hide the deltoid, then you're going to be able to see, yeah, that's going to about there on the scapula. Now my triceps probably wants to be quite a bit wider than this, unless this is a very skinny person. And one unique character trait of the triceps, wait, before I talk about the character trait, let's just be clear about the function of it, right? It's coming from the humerus, it's going to the ulna. So when it pulls that point to that point, it's straightening up the ulna. And of course the radius by extension, because those two bones are not fused, but they are attached. So when this happens, whoa, not that happens, let's rotate. Okay, when that happens, the biceps is going to be doing that action. The biceps is going to be whoop, compressing through there as it pulls that up, and the triceps is going to be getting stretched down through there. So that's the function of the triceps. Like I say, because it grabs hold of the scapula, it can pull the arm towards the scapula as well, or pull the scapula towards the arm, but that's really just like a little bonus function, let's say. Now, one of the really interesting things about the form of the triceps is the triceps tendon, because it's so big. It's this big, broad, kind of flattened cylinder of tendon. Now, a mistake most people are going to make is they'll allow that tendon to just follow the line of the humerus in the same way that I was saying that a lot of people will allow the biceps to follow the line of the humerus. And if you just don't do that, then you're already starting off on then you're already making a strong start, let's say. So when you're looking at the tendon, I want you to look at when the arm is by the side, it's pretty much vertical, right? So the line of the humerus is going that way, the line of the tendon is breaking away from that through there. Okay, it's going to be something like that. The length of the tendon will vary from person to person. You could generally say like it's finishing maybe half the length of the triceps, but in general, if people are going to have different tendons, it tends to be longer than shorter. So I've seen people with triceps tendons all the way up there, but I've never seen someone with a tiny little triceps tendon like that. Could happen, but not so regularly, or I've never seen it. So let's be clear, that division there, that's the lateral head on the outside. This is the medial head on the inside, and this is the long head, long because it's going all the way up to the scapula. Right, the others are just happy to grab hold of the humerus through there. So that's the basic rhythm of the triceps from the back. Now, one thing that's really important to get your head around with the triceps is when you're looking at the silhouette of this portion of the arm from the front or the back view, what you're looking at is triceps. Right, the biceps is not impacting the silhouette. The brachialis is not impacting the silhouette. It's all in the triceps. And this lateral head through here tends to bulge out high, and then this medial head bulges low because it is low, and then this is an interesting little thing. This gives us this little S curve. It's not really important that you're aware of it, but at some point it becomes useful to know about. And muscles never just wobble for no reason, right? Even though this is a beautiful curve to find, you'd never see a muscle doing that if it could help it. And so the reason why it's doing it is just that it's turning to tendon here. So The muscle itself is actually just a C curve, and then that straightness of the tendon gives us that little accentuation to the curve through there. So that's the rhythm from the front and the back view. Again, low on the inside, high on the outside. And then this, I would say in general, like on most people, this will look more or less like a long, soft curve. On some people, you might see that break between the two heads. You don't need to be a superhero to see that, but you need to be fairly lean and or fairly muscular. And this head bulges out high and then goes into a straight through there. Now, as we check the side view, one thing that you've really got to understand is the flattening effect of the tendon, because you can't build your tendons, right? You can't make your tendons bigger. So what you're generally going to see is that tendon being flat and then the muscles bulging out around it. So this movement of a fairly flat line to a sudden bulge out there, that's very, very indicative of a muscular arm. You will see that jump out movement very often on strong muscular people, but you will see that same rhythm on pretty much everyone. Because actually we store fat at the tops and the backs of the arms. So even if you don't have a particularly muscular triceps, what will happen is you will store fat there, which will bulge this out anyway. So you're almost always going to see, even in a very delicate way, that straight line going to bulge through there. So let me just bulge this triceps up on all fronts. Through here, pretty much touching the brachialis through there. Notice there's a gap through there. There is a muscle missing through there that I'm going to cover at some point. Don't worry, I will hit it. And then let's just pull this forward so we're not seeing our humerus bone. So through here, triceps touching the brachialis. So we go triceps, brachialis, biceps, but conceptually I tend to group the biceps and brachialis together. So I'm just thinking about essentially two masses through there. It can get a little bit weird if you start to carve in these lines in life. You can see it sometimes, but very softly. This is maybe a good time, now that we've got these arm bones in, these arm muscles in, to talk about this concept that I've come up with that I would call a rule of threes that I think helps study the arm. So when we're looking at the bones, we have the humerus, and then we have the radius and the ulna. So we've got 3 arm bones, and then we start our study with the deltoid. The deltoid is made up of 3 separate parts, and then as we get down here, our primary interest is in these 3 muscles, triceps, brachialis, and biceps. And if you group the biceps and the brachialis in, you have 2 heads of the biceps, so you go 1, 2, and then another one for the brachialis, and then on the triceps, of course, you have 3 heads through here. So what we're going to see is a repeating idea of 3s. Right, as we get into the forearm muscles, they become super complicated, but we are mainly interested in breaking them down into 3 separate masses, right? The supinators, or the ridge muscles, the flexors, and the extensors. So this is an idea that I'm going to keep on repeating as we keep on moving down the arm, but it's worth taking a note of now. All right, that's it for the triceps.